Good morning. My name is Heather, and I use the pronouns both she and they. Please take this opportunity to silence all electronic devices, and welcome. If this is your first time, or if this is your 100th time, we are so very glad to have you here with us today. If you would like to receive any sort of communication about us, you can complete the guest cards, which are found over there on the credenza, and then you can return those cards to the greeters. You can leave them on the credenza, or you can place them in the offering basket that will be passed around a little bit later in the service. We don't have a written order of service, but you've each been provided a small little booklet with information about us, as well as a slip of paper for any joys or sorrows that you would like to write down. You can also put those into the offering basket when it's passed around, and we can share those later in the service as well. And we have a couple of announcements. I believe Lori Winterberg wanted to share one announcement.
It's nice coming after somebody who's short. I don't have to adjust. At noon today, the UUCP very first Buy It Now site is going to be available for you to buy stuff and buy it now. Software is an auction kind of software, so you'll see the word bidder used in there frequently. There's no bidding. All the prices are fixed. The store is going to be open 24/7, so it starts at noon today and closes at noon on Friday the 25th. It's extremely user-friendly website. If you've ever shopped or done anything online, you'll have no problems. Now, in your seat many seats, is a little card, and it has the auction address on there. So if you're somebody who likes to have a piece of paper in your hand as you type and put an address. Now, at 11 o'clock this morning, there's going to be an email that's going to pop in your inbox for anybody who is registered on our Simple Church website. And in that email also is a link to the website. So you've got a couple different ways that you can access the website to go do some shopping. There's going to be no shipping. We're not going to mail anything. So if you buy something, you'll be local folks and you need to actually pick it up. Feel free to share the address if you have trusted friends or relatives that you think they might like some bargains. And there are indeed some incredible bargains. Now, if you need a little coaching or a little hand-holding or how to navigate, you can get in touch with me. I brought my little tablet with me. Linda Cobb is also available to help, although she's not here this morning. But we're always just a phone call away, and we can walk you through pretty much anything over the phone or even meet up with you somewhere. So buy stuff. There are some amazing bargains. And I got to admit, at noon today, I'm hoping I'm not real busy because I have been eyeing a couple things really, really hard. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Lori. And we do have one other announcement. So we are going to have a celebration of Pi Day on the 14th, which is tomorrow. So please join your UU friends at the church in the foyer at 1 p.m. for Pi tomorrow, because it is 3.14. Pi is a constant in life, and what better way to celebrate than with eating homemade pie and conversation with friends. Plan on having fun. Please RSVP by raising your hands if you will be attending. Yay for pie! So now we will do the chalice lighting, and the words for the chalice lighting are by Reverend Suzelle Lynch. Each time we light the chalice, we renew our commitment to our Unitarian Universalist faith. With the spark of a match, we make it new again, as fresh and surprising as the first day we encountered this spiritual community and realized we were home. We light this chalice for renewal of our faith. And now we will have a little bit of centering music.
It is delightful to have Bobby with us today and Jack on drums, and I extend my welcome in addition to Heather's to all of you who are here with us today. I am the Reverend Alice Syltie, and I call us into this time with words from this wonderful Unitarian Universalist minister that I've had the opportunity to spend some time with occasionally, Richard Gilbert. And because our theme for this month is renewing faith, I'm reading his words on faith in existence. In the blessed peace of this holy hour, we come together as a community of faith. Here we come to be fed, to drink in the living waters, to eat at the table of tradition, to partake of the wisdom of our companions. The faith we share is not a commonality of belief, nor the creedal precision we have left behind, not suspension of reason. The faith we share is a fundamental confidence in life, a basic trust in human existence, an affirmation in the worthwhileness of the human enterprise. Our faith is a knowledge there is more to life than eye can see or ear can hear, than thought alone can grasp. Our faith is an affirmation of our human capacity to respond to all that fate flings against us and yet proclaim to all that life is good. Our faith is in the meaning of the past and the openness of the future as they meet in the eternal present. Our faith is in that great mystery of things in which we live and move and have our being. May we be faithful to the best that is in us, knowing how hard that is to do, and knowing there is no other way. I invite you now to rise as your body or spirit allow as we say the words to our church covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And our opening hymn is number 1000. The words will be on the screen, so you can just remain standing. Morning has come. Oh, they can't read it. Oh, well. If you see one of those teal hymnals, grab it. It's number 1000. If not, just enjoy. I'm going to stand over here and try to read it. And I might dance.
You go right ahead.
I'm so delighted that when I found out that Bobby was going to be playing for us, I picked all my favorite exciting music that I knew he could play.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have to recover from all this excitement and have a story. This is a story that I tell every once in a while when I think we need to be reminded about how we all pitch in and help one another and help this congregation. It's called Higgins, A Drop with a Dream, and it's written by a very good friend of mine, the Reverend Chris Weiss, who is the minister in the Knoxville, Tennessee church. So once upon a time, there was a drop of water named Higgins. Now, Higgins was no ordinary drop of water. He was a drop with a dream. And Higgins lived in a valley where it had not rained in a very long time, kind of like where we've been living in the last 2 years. So all the lovely grass, the green grass, was turning brown, and all the beautiful flowers were wilting, and the trees were starting to droop. But Higgins had a dream that one day the valley would be a beautiful place again, kind of like we are today with our masks off and all of our smiling faces. But what could he do? Just him by himself. After all, he was only a drop of water. Well, one day Higgins decided to travel and tell others about his dream. All the other drops listened very politely, but no one believed that his dream would come true. Higgins said one, "Get your head out of the clouds. You can't spend your whole life dreaming." Higgins decided that he had to do something to make his dream come true, so he began to think and think and think. One day, as he was walking by a rusty old bucket, he got an idea. If enough of us drops of water got together in this bucket, he thought, there would be enough water to sprinkle on a few flowers to help them grow and become beautiful again. Eagerly, Higgins told everyone about his great idea, but everyone thought he was being foolish. That Higgins is nothing but a dreamer, they said. Higgins decided he had to do something to convince the others that he was right. So he said to them, "I don't know about you, but I'm getting in the bucket. I hope some of you will join me. Then there might be enough water to help at least some flowers grow beautiful again." So Higgins ran as hard and as fast as he could, hopped way up in the air, and landed in the bucket with a kerplunk. And there he sat, just a drop in the bucket. For a long time, Higgins was very lonely. It seemed like no one else was going to join him. But after a while, some of the other drops could see that the grass was dying and the flowers were wilting and the trees were drooping. They all agreed that something must be done. Suddenly, one drop shouted, "I'm going in the bucket with Higgins." And he leaped through the air and landed kerplunk in the bucket. The other two drops yelled, "Wait for us!" And they hopped through the air and landed in the bucket. Then 10 drops jumped through the air into the bucket. Then 30, then 50, and then hundreds of drops from all over came to hop in the bucket. Soon, what do you think happened? The bucket was full, completely full of water. But there were still more drops that wanted to join, so they found another bucket and hopped in. Before long, there were 2 buckets of water, then 3, then 4, then 10, then hundreds, and then thousands of buckets of water. And then along came a powerful breeze, like the other night. And all that breeze blew over all the buckets, and all the water flowed together to make a mighty stream. Everywhere the water flowed, the grass turned green again, and the flowers bloomed, and the trees stood tall and straight once more. All this happened because Higgins had a dream, and his dream came true. Because he knew that although he was just a drop in the bucket, enough drops in the bucket made a bucket full. And then there would be enough buckets. And with the wind behind them, then justice would roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. So thank you to my friend Chris Bice for that story about dreams and hope and faith, which is our theme for today. And so we will sing any of the children or youth who want to go on to some other activities out, but if you want to stay with this exciting, wonderful, fabulous group of people and me, you're invited to do that also. We have choices here.
Everywhere,
And it is time for the offering, and I will let Heather introduce that.
Thank you, Reverend Alice. So this church is supported by all of us, really, and it is through so much generosity that we are able to do all of the things and more, honestly, that we are able to provide. So if you are willing, able, and you find it in your heart that you are able to give and to continue to support everything that we do here and the dreams that we have to do more things, then of course we would gladly accept any offering that you could provide. So we will pass around the offering basket, and also this is the time if you have any joys or sorrows, or if you are a newcomer, you can put the cards that you may have filled out from being greeted or from the credenza. You can put all of that stuff in the offering basket as well. So before we get to the reading of the joys and sorrows, I believe that Mary Lee would like to give us an update on the annual budget drive.
What a lovely day. I know it's a little chilly, but it's gorgeous out there. Did you know that we're in the midst of an annual budget drive? Perhaps not, or you forgot. But the reality is now's the time to help us create a budget to plan for the coming year's programs. UUCP is fully funded by the generosity of members and friends. We have programs and opportunities that interest many talents. The past 2 years have not affected our commitment to the greater community. Our time away from the building was not wasted. We had multiple hours and people who volunteered creating interesting services to be shared on our YouTube channel. Many members joined in recording and sharing their stories. "We can do this" became our motto. Our services online attracted people who were looking for a community that welcomes a variety of ways to improve the lives of all. We're hoping to be able to enhance our audio-visual video capabilities to continue serving those who cannot be with us in the building. Our members are involved in many social actions within Pensacola and surrounding areas. Today, as a matter of fact, we'll be meeting after the service to get updated information regarding Just Pensacola. Many of us have been working on the issues of affordable housing and criminal justice for youth and adults. These are important issues that our members have given their voice and action to help change what is to what can be. UUCP history and legacy is important to the community. Our members come from many backgrounds, but join together to live our 7 principles. Each year at this time, we ask you to consider your pledge to continue the work that we have begun. We're back in the building in a space that allows us to be together in fellowship. Your board and teams work hard to serve each of you and your many needs for knowledge and action. Now's the time when we ask you to commit to contributing to our need to continue our work within and outside our walls. Lori Winterberg and I can help you if you are need questions answered as to how to go ahead and do that. We're very flexible in how we accept contributions, so don't worry about that. Our following words were written by John Saxon. And it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and the financial support of the members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world.
Thank you, Mary Lee. And as a reminder, this afternoon, right after this service, 11:15, that's actually still morning, isn't it? There'll be a gathering about Just Pensacola. So is there anything important to say about that other than just please come?
Definitely come, and we'll hear about the progress of the research teams.
Okay, so you'll learn more about what we've been researching, what we want to put our hearts into, and Kaylee Williams will be here as a representative from Just Pensacola. Justice United Seeking Transformation in Pensacola. And it's a very important work that we're involved with at least 19 other congregations across Pensacola area. So it's an interfaith organization that we really want to support and be a part of. So we have some joys and sorrows to share today, and Heather will light candles. Now this first one is actually more of an announcement, but I'll go ahead. Please mark your calendars. It says it's a joy for Earth Day. Pensacola returns to Bayview Park April 23rd from 10 to 4. Lots of info about living sustainably 365 days a year. Any questions, ask me. Rick Kendall? Yep. All right, thank you. Living sustainably is definitely a social justice stance and a joy to participate. For all of us whose hearts and minds and souls are on the people in Ukraine and even in Russia and across the world who are suffering and worried the effects of this tragic war that's happening, we light this candle, and some of you have sent reminders of that. For Lori Winterberg, a sorrow, loved ones lost. And Hugh Ed also is the children of Ukraine. From Norman Moser, some health issues. And we'll light a candle that Norman will be well and heal. A sorrow for Bob Williams, whose brother has suffered a stroke. Sorry to hear that, Bob. And from Tim, Tim says, I married my wife Mary 37 years ago. She died 4 years ago on March 8th, 2018. Her death is my biggest sorrow, but my love for her is my biggest joy forever. Well, thank you so much for that. It's always wonderful when we can remember the joy when we've had a loss. When my husband died, somebody said to me, Alice, some people live an entire life and never have what you two had. And I hold that in my heart also. And some joys. Kate Wolverton says tomorrow is Jack Wolverton's 60th birthday. Wish him a happy birthday. Woo-hoo! Now you can join the Senior Citizens Club. You get discounts and stuff, yeah. And from Lisa Rawson, a joy, my daughter Monica Rawson's pregnancy is going well. It's going to be a boy, due date July 4th, 2022. Yay! Let's light a candle. My friend Tom Robinson, that I stay with Tom and Lynn over in Gulf Breeze, his mother passed away. She was 94. She'd been in the arbors, but yesterday was her service, and so we'll light a candle for my friends Tom and Lynn. And they have been friends of my, well, really Tom and my husband David grew up together in Mobile on Bucker Road, and there's a whole group of people from that time, and we talked a lot yesterday at the funeral about communities that form when you're little children and the parents are friends and the children are friends, and now there's the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren, and you know, a lot of that same community was gathered there, and some are gone. So a candle for community, and a candle, one last candle for all of those joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts yet unspoken. That clock is not working today, is it? No. You know, I might talk too long. Maybe I should put my phone up here so I can see when it's time to quit. I noticed that a lot of us have the same kinds of things on our minds right now. I watched the sermons that other people did, Maggie and Lauren and Reverend Boy, and we all seem to be kind of in the same place right now, concerned about one another in a trying time in our lives. And our theme is faith and renewing faith, which is not always easy for Unitarian Universalists, and I'm guessing that we all find that faith in different ways. And church leaders everywhere are returning. A lot of people are returning to church. I mean, we've returned in a new way. We've been here, but now today we're seeing smiles and faces, and we've decided to, I don't know, maybe we've decided to take a little extra risk, some of us, but I also want to encourage anyone who feels more comfortable with a mask. I'm still wearing mine in a lot of different places. You know, do what you know you need to do to feel safe, always. But I don't think it's ever going to be post-COVID. I think that we have all been changed, and our schools and our churches and our institutions, all of these institutions to which we belong, will be touched by the changes. This web of interdependence is going to be sensitive to the changes. A word that is heard a lot right now is trauma. The world is experiencing trauma. We can't deny the fear that we have felt for our loved ones and ourselves as this disease engulfed us. And now we are heartsick and horrified at the magnitude of suffering we witness in the images of war that we see every time we turn on the TV or read the headlines of the newspaper. We are connected through our sorrow to the suffering that we witness. Some, even in our own congregation, are reliving a nightmare. I know, because I have spoken with some of these people. Whether we are cognitively aware of it or not, most likely all of our physiological or psychological fight or flight instincts have been triggered, and this will mean different things for different people. Some are more sensitive to anxiety than others. A lot of times we have anxiety going on that we're not the least bit aware of, and some of us are aware. Our bodies are marvelous and mysterious. But it is in this community of caring and sharing with one another that we wrestle with our deepest thoughts about ultimate concerns. Paul Tillich, theologian and philosopher of this modern era, said that our ultimate concern is probably the most important single factor determining our personality and our life. It is our most important value. He calls it our personal God because it is so powerful. Our ultimate concern determines other values, beliefs, goals, feelings, and actions. And faith, according to Tillich, since it's our theme, is the state of being ultimately concerned. Commenting on Tillich, Tom Stevens, PhD psychologist and professor, writes, "For example, if money is my ultimate concern, then I will focus upon making money above all else." And then I put this in my words, "I will choose a career, spouse, car, clothing, and activities that are consistent with making the most money I can. If money is my ultimate concern, then when the value of money conflicts with another value, the value of making money will always win the conflict. Money God, my money God, will control me and determine much of my personality and my relationship to the world around me." We've had a couple of years to really focus on what is our highest value and what is of ultimate concern. And right now there are so many things pulling on us and tugging at our attention and our hearts that we may possibly be questioning or reevaluating our highest values or ultimate concern. These are words from UU minister and theologian A. Powell Davies, who lived from 1902 to 1957. He was renowned in our movement, and many of you may know of him. So must we, he wrote. "So far as I can see, all the great leaders and the great exemplars of religion possessed faith in life's essence, in its hidden meaning, in its moral claim, and in the rightness of its inner spiritual guidance. And by this the great ones lived their lives. So must we. There are no problems greater than our power to solve them. There are no burdens greater than our strength. We shape, by every moment of our lives, the great decisions. Then let us venture still, with reason as a lamp to guide us, but lighted with the light of faith." I think sometimes right now it feels like maybe the problems are a little overwhelming and we don't have good answers. Frequently, you hear people use the word faith when they're talking about a belief. I think there's a difference between faith and belief. In a conversation with UU ministers and theologians, faith is often referred to as a verb. And from Tillich, whatever is regarded as ultimately important in one's life is in effect the object or subject of one's faith. An ultimate concern is in principle an unconditional concern which calls for the allegiance of the whole self, emotionally, volitionally, and intellectually. Faith is not the exclusive characteristic of theists, those who believe in one or more gods or higher realities, but can be seen as well in the lives of those whose ultimate concern is, for instance, their nation, or a view of history, or a value such as power or success. I thought of this in light of what is happening between Russia and the Ukraine and all of us at this point. It follows from this definition of faith that the object of theology is what concerns us ultimately. For a number of years now, I have heard sermons across our landscape about the nones, the N-O-N-E-S, the people who check the box that says that they have no religious affiliation. We Unitarian Universalists like to think that if only they knew about us, they would be knocking down the door. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure we understand all the different reasons people choose to affiliate or not affiliate with organized religion. I don't know if the people that are at church this morning at Flounders or the Floribama are there because they have decided they have no use for organized, traditional religion, or if they're really Methodists who want a bushwhacker after church. The idea behind those churches, though, was to draw the people who were not interested in the typical brick and mortar building. The hope was to attract the unchurched, the nuns. Everybody wants the nuns. In the 50s and 60s, faith communities were just a part of life. I think when I was a little girl, everybody just went to church. That's what we did. And then later, when I became a minister of Unitarian Universalist churches, I found out that there had been a lot of sad kind of things going on in some of those churches. And so I was beginning to hear stories of abuse, or not horrible abuse usually, but people felt abused sometimes by what was going on in the church, or they were told that they were going to hell for who they were, and that it worried them, and it scared them. And when they found a church that was open and accepting of who they were, who they are, it was such a comfort. Not necessarily did the religion always fit. And there are more churches now and more different ways of reaching people in different faith stances. But we still always have been kind of on the forefront of acceptance and accepting people. But we started observing, though, because I worked in religious education for so long, that young people who had grown up either without a church or in a church that tried to not look like a church, which some of our churches try really hard not to look like a church, that they didn't have, when they made changes in their lives, they didn't really have anything to actually leave behind or to hang on to. So that can be a difficult place to be. But they knew something was missing. This sense of something missing was an awareness. And so looking for something to fill that place didn't necessarily lead people to a building, but it did lead people to recognition of the need for some kind of ritual, a way to make the abstract more concrete in their lives. And sometimes this was in nature, sometimes it was in a building, sometimes it was alone, sometimes it was with others. And so then we had this tension, especially in our congregations, of the old and the new, the traditional and the contemporary, the abstract and the concrete. Kind of made me think about allergic reactions. You have to be exposed to something to develop a reaction. And then once you develop that, every time you come in contact with the substance, you'll have a reaction. And if you manage to escape overexposure long enough to develop antibodies, you may not become symptomatic. But I think a lot of us have seen symptomatic people in Unitarian Universalist churches. It's like poison ivy. Some people can roll in it and not break out or itch. Children raised by parents who had left behind or rejected anything that reminded them of religion had children who may not have had any of those reactions, but they were still looking for something. A few weeks ago, I mentioned taking a course on religious humanism because it seemed relevant to the religious atmosphere of many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations, especially in the South, where I've chosen to serve. And I've watched as changes have taken place over the years. I remember one time when I was in the Birmingham UU Church, at that time, one of the lay leaders was about to light the candles for the joys and sorrows and said to the congregation, "And now we will partake of one of our traditions of joys and sorrows." And a founding member from the 50s or 60s was sitting next to me, and I heard her go, "Huh, tradition. We've been doing it for 2 weeks." In his book, Reason and Reverence, Dr. William Murray suggests that a new humanism for the 21st century must take into account the resurgence of interest in religion that's occurring among people who have no religious background and no commitment to the traditional religions. Many people, he explains, are seeking a religious perspective that incorporates the discoveries of modern science, but turns away from stories, myths, and symbols that for them have lost their power. But you know, that doesn't mean that all stories and myths have lost power. We depend on stories and myths to be in touch with our faith and to connect. This rate of advance in scientific knowledge is almost always causing us to have to reevaluate, and it shapes our thoughts, and it affects our stories too. But the stories that have real truth are the stories that we connect with. They can have different people, the stories in the Bible are stories about things that happen to real people, and we can relate to the stories whether we take the stories literally or not. It's here in this religious context that we begin to respond ethically and with reverence and awe. It's here that we can respond to the tensions and engage in relevant dialogue about our future, things that have a profound effect on the future, on our future and the future of our congregations and our movement. Dr. David Bamba, who is now retired UU minister and professor of ministry, put a foreword in the book by Bill Murray. In this book, my friend and colleague Bill Murray invites those of us who have thought of ourselves as religious humanists or who have been intrigued by religious humanism to explore the underlying assumptions of that vision. With a deep appreciation for the religious and intellectual history in which we are rooted, Dr. Murray calls us to an honest and open evaluation of the strengths and weaknesses of traditional religious humanism. In exploring its rich and often neglected potential, he argues that an enlarged humanism is able to engage the issues and needs of our times with honesty and integrity. He challenges us to recognize the self-imposed limitations that have prevented humanists from fully engaging the spiritual yearnings of contemporary society and have thus muted the humanist witness. I remember telling a friend when I was going to take that course that I was going to take a course on religious humanism, and the friend responded, "Well, that's an oxymoron, isn't it?" One of those sort of quick exchanges that you have on your way out the door. So quickly, in a few sentences, I explained religious humanism that's important to me and that's important in our tradition reflects our reverence for life and our belief in the worth and value of every human being. Well, he didn't argue with that and seemed to agree that that was not in conflict with religion. So then Murray writes, religious humanism is a life stance that exults in being alive in this unimaginably vast and breathtakingly beautiful universe, and that finds joy and satisfaction in contributing to human betterment. Without a creed, but with an emphasis on reason, compassion, community, nature, and social responsibility, it is a way of living that answers the religious and spiritual needs of people today. The emerging religious humanism is informed by a cultural development and recent discoveries in the natural and human sciences and grounded in the larger context of religious naturalism. That was something that Murray was exploring. Humanism is a big umbrella, and people are identifying adjectives in front of it, like Christian humanist, Jewish humanist, religious humanist, secular humanist. And when a neighbor asked Murray what it meant to be a humanist, he replied that humanism affirms the worth and dignity of every person, a commitment to human betterment, and the necessity for human beings to take responsibility for themselves and the world. His neighbor said, "Sounds like I'm a humanist too." In the same conversation, Murray talked about the difference between the secular humanist and the religious humanist, saying that religious humanism emphasizes the importance of communities that affirm, support, and encourage these values through preaching, teaching, caring for one another, celebrating life's passages together, and that secular humanism doesn't do those things. Moreover, he continues, religious humanism has a different feel or quality than secular humanism because it's more open to mystery and more likely to respond with reverence and gratitude at the wonder of being alive. That's the religious humanism of our tradition and our past. And then Murray began to embrace this humanistic religious naturalism, position that acknowledges the threat to life as we know it on this planet. He explains the damage to our natural environment caused by modern life has awakened our awareness that unless we change our thinking and our actions, life as we know it on this fragile planet will not survive indefinitely. So that's why y'all are going to go to Earth Day and learn about how to help this planet survive. Trusteeship is reverence for life applied to the natural environment. Its primary ethical responsibility is an ethical principle. And while he claims a non-theistic stance, others have a sense of religious naturalism as theistic in a very non-traditional way, making it very inclusive as a theological perspective. So from the God of the Hebrews and then from Christianity, Murray explains, we inherited an emphasis on humanity and therefore a neglect of the sacred dimension of nature. The way dominion over the earth and animals has been interpreted led us to an exploitation of the environment. And Murray points out that the holy was to be found only in human actions, human history, and in the supernatural. And that has not been the case with Unitarian Universalism. We have been informed not only by the humanist tradition, but also, remember, by the transcendentalists. With our roots strongly in the Hebrew and Christian teachings, we have moved with transcendentalism, humanism, feminist theology, earth-centered theology. So now I think it's time for us to pause for a look at the integration of all of these separate ways of thinking so that we can embrace a more holistic outlook, one that empowers us to work from the deepest core of our being, our ethical and spiritual center, enabling us to discover what for us is of ultimate concern. To what do we pledge our allegiance? What is it that burns in our hearts and souls as worthy of our faithful commitment, our ultimate concern? What is the fire of your commitment, which is our next hymn? What number is it if we have a book?
That was pretty cool.
1028? 1028 if you've got a book. These are words from Scott Taylor, Reverend Scott Taylor. Go with faith, not the kind that is called to move mountains, but the quieter sort that calls us to take the first step, even when the whole staircase sits beyond our view. As we stride toward the unseen, may we notice that the way unfolds only as we risk walking it, and may we remember and trust that none of these steps are ones we take alone. May we go in peace, in love, and in faith. Thank you for being here.